Every year, Fortune magazine publishes a list of companies that are most admired companies in the United States. Walmart was ranked number one in three areas: Fortune 500, Fortune Global 500, and Fortune sector leader in retailing. It was lower, it was ranked lower in best companies to work for, is ranked number 97, and most innovative companies to work for was 88. It did rank number nine in world's most admired companies. Due to not being ranked number one in multiple areas, I chose this company to identify the issues and some of the issue ramifications that Walmart has. Let's first discover what Walmart is. Walmart is a large retailer that has both physical and e-commerce stores. They offer a variety of services and products. They offer general groceries as well as general merchant. They own Sam's Club, and they also have pharmacy as well as optical options for both in Walmart as well as Sam's Club. They were ranked the largest revenue company in America in 2023. Some of the major issues that Walmart faces today is poor quality of management. This is because they have unsafe work conditions and environments. They were also charged with bribery of government officials. They also lack poor people management because of gender discrimination and failure to provide good working conditions for all employees. And the third Walmart issue that I identified was unwise use of corporate assets. This is due to unsatisfactory wages for all employees and inadequate health care and health plans for all employees. Some of the ramifications of the issues I described in the previous slide were that Walmart had to pay $282 million in legal fees to settle the bribery case. In 2020, multiple families sued Walmart for poor conditions after those family members died due to COVID. There were multiple protests that occurred at Walmart due to locking up only multicultural hair culture and beauty products and not locking up all beauty products. This gave them very negative press and the loss of business revenue. It also gave them the reputation that they were discriminatory towards multicultural people with multicultural. There was also a class action lawsuit that was filed against Walmart from women who were getting discriminated against in terms of salary, bonuses, and training. It first started with a few women, and this then proceeded to have over 2,000 women that were part of the class action lawsuit. These are just some of the ramifications that were identified and published. There is a lot more that have came up to light due to the poor working conditions. One of them is decrease in employee productivity is a direct impact from poor people management. People that do not feel valued are going to not want to work harder because their worth is not being valued by the company. Due to poor people management and poor quality of management, there's been a negative damage to the company's reputation, which has lost revenue. This has also been negative social media posts as well as negative press coverage. There's been a high employee turnover rate due to poor management and working conditions. Walmart's organization is a hierarchy functional organization structure. This means that their executive level makes all decisions and that the chain of command and the level of authorizations are clearly defined, but it comes from the executive level. Many refer to this as a pyramid where your CEO, your CFO sit at the top and all decisions come from them and they are trickled down. This means that middle management execute orders from upper management or executive level. This does not mean middle management makes decisions. They have to get approval from higher management in order to execute any decision making. The main purpose of Walmart structure is to ensure that corporate manages and has all influence over all parts of the organization. This gives them more control, and monitoring is what Walmart believes is the best structure for them because they have so many entities and so many stores, as well as e-commerce and Sam's Club. There is negative impacts to the way that Walmart has structured their design. The ability to be flexible and to make adjustments as needed or as quickly is not there because they cannot be made by entry level or middle management. This is due to the approval process for decision making. The inability to grow your entry level or your middle management skills, and the ability to grow employee leadership skills. It is very, very tough to grow a leader if there's no ability to make decisions at that level. Walmart's culture has implemented RISE. RISE stands for R equals respect, I equals integrity, S equals service, and E equals excellence. This means that they service their customers. That is their number one focus. This is the culture that has been in and instilled at Walmart since the very beginning. This is the only part of the culture that demonstrates servant leadership. Respect for individual. Walmart defines this culture principle as investing to the growth of their employees. Although we do see issues arise that counteract that, this has been instilled in their principles today and is published on their website, showing that they do instill this and it is their culture value. Strive for excellence. They strive to ensure that their employees are performing at elite level to ensure good customer service. An action for integrity. Walmart decision-making process requires that employees are honest and fair. This means that this has to go up from senior leadership to make the decision all the way down to entry level to execute the decisions made. Culture and structures that impact organization effectiveness that Walmart has is number one, their decision-making process and procedures. Walmart implemented the RISE, which means that they are customer service focused, but they also have a delay in decision making because of the approval process that has to be done at the executive or higher upper management level. This will directly impact how quickly adjustments can be made and how quickly decisions can be made. Walmart is also focused on being cost effective, and this will also mean that their decisions come with a price tag and they will make their decision based on that price tag. Since the decision making is done at the executive level, it can slow down the decision and implementation of projects and adjustments. Companies' communication requirements and structure, since no decisions are made at the entry level and very few are made at the middle management level, decision making is done at the executive level, it can delay the communication efforts that are needed to go down company wide. The ability to adapt and be adaptable and do a change control process is very slow. Walmart strives to be innovative and a front leading company, but decisions are made at the executive level. Therefore, it can be slower to actually implement innovative decisions. But according to Walmart, they are frontline and leading in innovation in their company. All decisions are made to focus around a price tag and customer service. So if a negative experience is occurring as customer service, there will be a quick decision for that. The other impact is customer service. Walmart's number one focus is that their customers and their customer needs. This means that their structure and culture is designed to ensure a positive customer experience, no matter what the whole entire stakeholders need or want. So we're going to look at Walmart's culture versus conscious culture. Conscious culture values really are focused on 4 different areas. Environment, sustainability of products and processes. This means, does the values ensure that they are looking at the environment, what's best for the environment and how they can get better at being better for the environment? Racial and gender equality, fair employee economy opportunities, and supporting local communications. According to Walmart, they have implemented RISE, which would then say that they are in hand with conscious culture values, because RISE stands for respect, integrity, service, and excellence. So Walmart has instituted opportunities for growth for employees. For example, their CEO started as an entry-level hourly employee that has now grown into the CEO of the company. Their health and emotional benefits have grown for all employees, so they offer a wider division of healthcare plans, and they have emotional benefits for all employees. They have an exclusion is focus point at Walmart. Walmart associates with resource groups as AABRG, APAN, Pride, Enable, HLARG, and Tribal Voices. These are just some of their resource groups, but there is multiple more that I have not listed. So in order to make change, in order to do a change implementation that is positive, you've got to look for the framework that is needed. The very first step of a positive change framework is to identify what needs to be changed and create urgency around those changes. Some of the changes that need to occur at Walmart are work conditions and environment, gender equality, fair wages and salaries, and fair healthcare plans for all employees. The second step to building or to implementing a change to build a team to identify how to implement those changes is called the implementation time. It is an implementation team. It is a crucial part to have all teams, no matter what level, involved in the implementation planning and to implement the change themselves. If you do not have all the stakeholders identified and part of the change, most likely you will have resistance for that change. The third step is to develop the implementation plan and to get feedback from all employees. This will ensure that it's part of the everyday decision process and ensures that the strategies and visions align with the company values. And it is also to engage employees to help with some of the resistance that's probably going to occur for the change. The fourth step is to develop a company-wide communication plan and execute that communication plan. The communication plan is critical to making sure the change is implemented successfully and that resistance isn't met. If the execution plan or if the plan is not, the communication plan is not executed fully, this could give employees some fear as well as resisting the actual change itself. The fifth step is to identify any obstacles that could occur when implementing the change. And then also it is to figure out how to overcome those obstacles. As soon as you identify them, you have to be able to also figure out a resolution plan for the obstacles. And the sixth step is to identify your wins. You're going to have long-term wins, you're going to have short-term wins. You want to identify the short-term wins because that helps build team momentum. It also helps the employees or the team who is implementing the change feel valued and feel successful. So it is critical to recognize the individual and teams as they help create these wins. The seventh step is to build on the change. After each short-term win, complete a postmortem to identify what was successful and what failed. Then when the changes are made to the items that failed, it is critical to communicate that change. The next thing is to help teams and individuals want to achieve those objectives. So after you do a postmortem on the wins, you want to ensure that you're looking at what you could have done better. And the eighth step, the last step, is to ensure the change is permanent. If you do not complete the first 7 steps, then the change will not last. There'll be resistance. It is critical to ensure that the change is part of the organization's new values and culture. It is also critical to ensure that the change is part of all processes and companies' values and that the training that is necessary to implement the change is completed. There could be repeat training that is needed. We got to ensure that those training materials are created, established, and the training continues. Challenges. The number one challenge you're going to have whenever you're making a change in a business is employee resistance. This is because there is a fear whenever there's change because of the unknown. Some of the ways that you can eliminate that is to make sure that all employees understand the benefits of the change and that management communicates the change and the benefits accurately and frequently. The other part that can add challenges is if a company lacks a training plan or implementing a training plan. Employees are not part of the change implementation. They will not feel engaged and they will feel that their voices were not heard. Employees need a place to go and address the concerns without having to backlash on that. That is critical. Most companies call this an open door policy. A company needs to have an incentive program established already, and then they need to follow through with the incentive and reward program. Also, the last thing I can say is that management will make the change timeline too aggressive and other priorities will then go to the wayside, and that can cause more resistance and more employee frustration. Challenges, ways to resolve challenges is make sure the communication is clear and frequent, get feedback on that communication, engage employees and teams to plan the change, implement the change, and also implement the communication. Set up a training plan that is required for all employees. It doesn't matter level of management or if they're entry level. It is critical to establish a space for anybody to go to address their concerns. This is probably an open door policy. Document a change management plan and make sure you communicate that documentation very effectively. Create an incentive or reward plan for employees, and change timelines need to be gradual and reasonable. Make sure that you do not overlap your priorities and make sure that your employees are not overworked. Subsystem realignment is a really important thing to look at when you are looking at a change control. It's also important to understand that an organization is only as successful as the organization's culture, strategic objectives, and processes. This is critical. A company needs to understand that one subsystem relies on another subsystem and they work in parallel. Therefore, if one subsystem gets realigned, another subsystem probably needs to have a change. And people need to understand what the subsystem realignment is. There could be negative impacts when adjustments are made to one subsystem and not another. Some of the impacts are inconsistencies and inadequate. If subsystems are not running parallel together, those negative impacts will be very apparent. A company's productivity and performances are higher if all subsystems are aligned, and there is less conflict between teams and employees if subsystems are aligned. How to design a structure that is successful? What strategy should a company use? First strategy is to make sure that the company's goals and the structure are in alignment. If a company's goal is to focus on the customer, then you got to make sure the values state that. And you need to look at all stakeholders, not just the customers, because a company has more than a customer just to worry about. Define and establish individual and team responsibilities. This means to document it and communicate it. This does not mean just to define it at upper management and not communicate it down to the other departments. When defining a company's chain of command, you also need to look at the company's size and have it well documented. A communication plan must be established and implemented. Most people call this an open door policy, as well as the structure design needs to be reviewed frequently to find any opportunities to make sure that there's no opportunities for growth and to make sure the design focus on company's growth and future as well as employee needs. When you're defining job roles, they need to be defined for the duties that are assigned for that job role and not a specific person. Also, design structure needs to be specific to a company, and you do not need to focus on what other companies will be doing or are doing. This could cause you to lose opportunities for innovation. If a company goals strategies are changed, then the structure design needs to be reviewed and make sure there's no changes needed. Some of the areas where you're going to have impact, or if you avoid these, you won't have impact, are leadership makes assumptions instead of engaging employees. You never want to assume what the employees are feeling. Leadership does not prioritize employees and stockholders' needs and wants, and leadership doesn't serve a higher purpose. If the proper checks and balances are not implemented, this will lead to an issue. And if inclusion and diversity is not prioritized, this will also lead to an issue as well as probably negative press and social media press. Decision making is either too controlled or too widespread, which means either it's limited to a few people, which can cause a delay, or everyone can make a decision and then it's too widespread. If you define job duties on a specific person and not on a specific role, you're going to have issues, as well as if your structure and your company goals are not aligned. The best strategy used to build a good positive culture is ensure the company's values are clearly defined and communicated to everyone. Establish that the values are focused on exclusion and diversity. Also, do not ask your employees to complete something that your leadership will not. The employee incentive and reward program needs to be executed as well as communicated to everyone. Establish a process to collect employee and stakeholder feedback, and this needs to be done frequently. Establish a process for employee recognition and establish a program for employee development. This could be extra training. This could be paying for a master's. This could be a leadership opportunity, career growth plans, whatever it is, you've got to have an employee development program. Some strategies you want to avoid when building a culture is making sure that your leadership is not inconsistent. If their words and their actions state two different things, then company or employees are going to lose confidence in their leadership. If a culture is developed around fear instead of incentiveness, this is a negative work environment. If leadership is not willing to adapt to changes needed, or if they're not transparent with the changes needed, if leadership does not communicate well with the rest of the company, this is going to cause a problem. And if companies' values are not defined or communicated to employees. The next thing we want to look at is how you identify and what you need to do to identify lessons learned. As I look at Walmart, I would automatically have completed a postmortem after reviewing implementing a new culture. They implemented the rise. And is that working? Is there more lawsuits? Is their employees not feeling that they are involved? Is there diversity? So completing a postmortem immediately after a change was implemented or a new value was added is crucial. But when you completed a postmortem, you want to do a root cause analysis for each issue, not a standard root cause analysis. Each issue that was identified, do an RCA, a root cause analysis for those, and then identify actionable items from that issue. So if I have that diversity and exclusion was not met, how am I going to meet those needs? Also identify the project successes. We don't want to always just focus on the negative. We want to focus on the successes. And that can help us also develop some of the actionable items that are needed. Collect your stakeholders' feedback and then collect the change implementation feedback. They might be the same or they might be very, very different. Engage all teams involved when you're doing a postmortem. That is critical. If you only engage the senior leadership, you're not going to know how the changes impacted the entire company. And then don't do just don't do just one postmortem. If a change was completed, do another one in 6 months, do another one in 6 months after that. You got to make sure that you keep looking at this and identifying any issues that could have arose, a month from when the change was implemented to a year from when the change was implemented. Thank you so much for reviewing. The next few slides are just for references, and I will be posting this on my YouTube channel. I appreciate your time and listening to me. Thank you and have a wonderful day.